Okay, this is hopefully a short video because I have to get to work, but I wanted to clarify something that I kind of came across over the weekend. A video that I'm trying to, I'm trying to get to the link so I can say Boston Bombing Christ Psychosis 04/18/13 is the title by, and I'm just going to spell it, Calpurnpiso. He's got some interesting things to say, and he basically puts the word psychosis at the end of any religious belief. So like Christ psychosis, or Islam psychosis, or Judaism psychosis, because he sincerely believes that basically people who believe in these imaginary beings are just it's this type of schizophrenia. And I kind of chuckled at that when I first read it. I was like, I've heard it before, that it's a lot like mental illness or mental disorders. But then I really put it in my, put the pieces in my head and thought about it for a little while, and I'm like, I can totally see where he gets that, because I have a mom who has, she has paranoid schizophrenia with delusions of grandeur. And I've known she's had this for about 6 years, maybe 7, I don't know, it's a blur. In my early 40s, she started to deteriorate after she had chemotherapy and cancer surgery. And prior to that, she had managed to do very well, at least as far as she coped. She coped well enough to always have a full-time job, and she raised 2 kids all by herself. And for that, I have to admire her, that she did, because she later confessed to a friend of hers that she's heard voices her whole life. So she managed to keep her illness hidden, although all through my life I had people, oh, your mom's a little odd, make comments, but I just, yeah, well, whatever. When it's your only parent, you tend to think of you don't see you don't have any way to compare. I only had one parent, and I didn't ever have, obviously, any other parents, so what I thought of as normal, other people thought of as strange. But okay, so now I've had some experience dealing with somebody with schizophrenia. And I tried and tried and tried, because my mom was always very sharp and very intelligent and very responsible, and she was very meticulous about keeping her credit. She always had good credit. She was very responsible, paying her bills, etc., etc. When the schizophrenia took over her after her chemo, she got very sick from the chemo, and she stopped the chemo, but it was basically, I don't know, maybe part of her understood that she was, that this was jeopardizing something that she had relied on her whole life to keep this illness under wraps. But she stopped the chemo after like 2 or 3 treatments because it made her ill, is what she said. And the next thing I know is I'm getting her friends calling me on the phone, have you talked to your mother lately? So anyway, long story short, because it's a really long story, my mom had these very harmful delusions. She had imaginary people. She saw them and heard them, and she set up a marriage to a John Rossiter and invited all of her friends. And she had friends from as far as Wenatchee, Washington, which is on the other side of the Cascades. Drive down to the University Presbyterian Church for this wedding, and the church was closed, and there was nobody there, and my mother wasn't there. And I called her. This is, I knew by this time that she had something going on, but I wasn't quite sure what. And it was because her designer, because John Rossiter is very, oh no, it's not that, I'm sorry, my mom also thought she was extremely wealthy, because she had thought, she had a vision that she had won all this money from Reader's Digest. So anyway, I tried for years to talk her out of these delusions, and it would only make her very angry and upset. I found out that you cannot talk somebody who's delusional out of their delusions. I also found out that people who have schizophrenia truly, sincerely believe that their delusions are real. They cannot distinguish between real and what isn't real. John Rossiter was real. She had a friend that was going to go with her to Wisconsin in the dead of winter. She ended up going alone because her friend backed down at the last moment, but my mom had already arranged airline tickets for them both. She went to Wisconsin in the dead of winter by herself. Didn't really have, again, she thinks she's rich, but she's not. The police, they found her on the side of the road in the dead of winter. The car had run out of gas. She was disoriented. They basically, as far as I know, the police paid for her way back home. So, I mean, this was, imagine a woman in her 80s going to the Midwest in the middle of the winter. And when I asked her why she was going, I basically didn't think she was really going to go. She was like, "Oh, I'll tie you someday." The point is, they truly believe these things. They truly believe it's like their reality is different than your reality, my reality. They people that exist that don't exist. My mom, who used to be so meticulous about her credit went through. She was writing checks she couldn't afford because she thought she had all this money. She didn't pay for her rent in her apartment because she had people paying her bills for her, imaginary people paying her bills for her. And ultimately, in her middle 80s, she got, well, I think she was like 82 or 83, evicted from her apartment. She actually was put in that point. She was put into the hospital. Anyway, and that's when they diagnosed her, finally. But I can see when I think about what people who really believe, just because a book, okay, think about it, it's a book, it's just a book. It's been revised and edited, and there's been committees of people that sit down and decide what they're going to put in it. It's a book. People look at a book and because this book says something, they totally believe that it's real because a book says so. Because organizations have been created because they believe this book. Organizations say so, and a book says so, so it must be true. And it becomes so real to them, that, if you do this, you're going to have this friend living inside you, and you're going to be able to talk to them all the time, and you'll hear their voice. I mean, it's weird. It's like they voluntarily make themselves mentally ill. It's like it's like somebody flirting with an addiction. Oh, I'm just going to smoke a few cigarettes. I'll never become addicted. But then they do. It's like these people start out, well, my life is shit. Maybe if I do this, I'll have a better life. Maybe this Jesus character will help me make something of my life. I don't know what got me going. I guess I was at rock bottom when I became a Christian and I accepted Jesus. I was unable to cope with my living situation, and I needed something to help me get through it. And it turned out that my getting a cat so I had something to hold and love me is what actually got me through. But anyway, Jesus got the credit, of course. But in retrospect, I know it's because I had something warm and cuddly that I could love, and it loved me back. This video's going nowhere, isn't it? I guess my point is the difference that I see between schizophrenia and people who imagine people. I mean, I can't even say imagine. They really think that they're there. They see them and hear them, and they believe that they're there. They don't really imagine them, because imagination takes effort. You have to really take it. It takes work to imagine something. These visions, these people appear to these people to schizophrenics. They hear them and see them. They come from part of their brain, you know, it's a manifestation of something in their brain or whatever. Something's gone wrong in their brain. They don't ask for schizophrenia. They don't go out and make it happen. They don't invite it into their heart. It's something they're born with. It's genetic. It's a actual defect in their brain. It's not something that they can fix either. It's not curable. Medication can help, but it's an illness. Nobody asks to have a severe mental illness. Nobody asks for that. But Christians, this is the difference. Christians and / religious people make it for themselves. They make it for them. They set themselves up, and they believe it, and the little inner voice that we all have, that we all know as our common sense or our conscience or whatever, they put a name to it, and they make it into, they give it an identity and a personality, and it's like almost like a split personality going on in their head, you know, and they call it, you know, whatever, Jesus, Muhammad, whatever they call it. And I think eventually it becomes so real to them that it's just like with a schizophrenic, they have no way to, it's becomes so real to them that you can't talk them out of the delusion. It's like a self-induced delusion. But that's what I guess I'm trying to say the difference is. One of them is induced, and one of them is not. One of them is an accident of nature that you get like any other illness, and one of them is like the smoker smoking, and then suddenly they're addicted to cigarettes, you know. They become addicted to a religion, and then the next thing you know, they have developed this illness of their mind from it, and they don't even know it's an illness. But that's also true with a schizophrenic. They don't know they're ill. There's no way that they're ever going to see themselves as ill. They think everybody else who doesn't believe like they do or doesn't see these people or hear these people, they're the ones that are ill. The schizophrenic is the only normal one. And that's the same with the religious person. It's like the person with the illness, they never see themselves as ill. It's everybody else that's got the problem. So anyway, I can now, in retrospect, thinking about, you know, trying to compare the two, I can see where this guy's coming from, that it is a kind of psychosis. I can see the comparison and how that actually, you know, weighs out or whatever. That's not the right term, but it's early in the morning and I am so not ready to go. I'm like dragging my feet this morning. But anyway, so hopefully this video's made some sense. I do understand the correlation, is that the word, how the two fit, and how he could say that it's a psychosis, that religious belief is a psychosis. I think it doesn't start out that way, but I do think that it works its way into the brain, and it does actually create, like he says, schizophrenic type illness. Only it's a self-induced illness. And another thing that's different about religious psychosis versus schizophrenia is a schizophrenic doesn't go out and try to make more people be schizophrenic. You know, it doesn't try to spread itself to other people. It's not like a virus. Whereas religious psychosis is a virus. It wants to pass itself on. It wants everybody else to have the same, you know. It wants other people to conform to its reality that it has created. My mom did actually try to get me to believe her delusions, but very quickly she'd get angry and tell me that, you know, you're giving me that look. So that's the other thing. A schizophrenic is, people who have mental illness are not stupid. My mom is very intelligent, even with her illness. And if I roll my eyes or whatever, she would jump down. You know, you're giving me that look. Don't give me that look. You know, oh, she'd get so pissed off. Or she immediately knew if I got a tone in my voice. So I had to really learn. I had to learn how to really look like I'm listening and like I'm totally following her stories, even though what comes out of her mouth makes no sense. So yeah, it's hard to deal with somebody who's mentally ill. It's very hard. And it's very hard to try to tell somebody who has a self-induced psychosis, that they're wrong. It's just as hard to tell somebody like that they're wrong, you know, just because a book says so, and yet they have this absolute conviction, like my mom with her convictions, and you cannot talk them out of it. It's an illness. So anyway, I gotta go, and hopefully this video makes sense. I don't know why I make them in the morning, but sometimes I just get these thoughts and I'm like, yeah, okay. So if you've been listening, thank you very much. Bye.